Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Today I'm going to be going through a bunch of tips for Apex Legends in Season 8. Some of these are going to be specific to Season 8, whilst others are small things that I've picked up over time. For example, this door peeking trick that you may not know about even if you're a veteran player. So hopefully this video is going to be very useful to you. We're going to jump into a bunch of tips that are sort of just all over the place, and then we'll go into specific legend tips and weapon tips for every legend and weapon in the game. Before we get into this video is sponsored by Intel, so I have a short message from them. This video is sponsored by Intel. Intel wanted me to show you the new Asus ROG Zephyrus Duo 15 powered by the 10th gen Intel Core i9 processor. If you're a dual screen gamer and you want to try something new and be able to game on the go or have more portability, this laptop may be for you. The biggest issue with playing on a laptop is the small screen real estate. You only have one display and you're not going to be carrying another one around with you, but this laptop solves that problem by putting another display in the laptop itself. As you lift up the laptop, the display comes out and you have it in front of you in your vision. You can put anything on this display: videos, your live stream chat, any websites. There's even a few handy apps such as a cool handwriting mode, and this thing is touchscreen too. The laptop itself is powered, of course, by the Core i9 10th gen processor and an RTX 2080 Super, so you're going to be gaming on any games at very high settings at great frame rates. If you want to learn more, there's a link in the description. Alright, let's get into this list. So the grenade vaults make a big loud noise that can be heard from a long distance when you open them. So you can use this to your advantage. If you need to get kills, just listen out for the grenade vaults and you'll be able to know if someone is there nearby. But this can also work against you as well. If you're playing ranked, for example, and you open the grenade vault, you may need to expect a third party soon that may be on the hunt for some kills because they're going to hear that. The same could be said for flyers as well. If you're near containment, they'll bang it on the cage doors and make a bunch of noise, so you'll definitely know if someone's in containment. But also, flyers tend to make screeching noise when there's players nearby. So if there's a flyer in the distance and you're hearing them make screeching noise and you're not that close to it, chances are there is a group of players near that flyer. Now let's talk about this door peeking trick. This is something that you may not have known about, but you can actually peek doors very gradually, getting good angles on players whilst remaining behind cover. To do this, you simply need to open the door and then sit in the way of the door where it would usually close shut and block it from closing, and then as it hits your body, you can crouch and just move backwards and forwards to open the door at an angle that suits you. Another interesting tip is that armor actually sometimes glows through supply bins now. Ever since the Evo shield change, sometimes you can see the armor through the supply bin, which can be really useful. If you see like a purple hue on a supply bin as you land and you're hot dropping next to a bunch of players, obviously you're going to want to go for that bin because it's going to have purple armor in, and it's just a nice little bit of knowledge you can use to your advantage. Here's a little trick you can do to land quicker on Bonsai when you have a bunch of hot drops here. Just hit the skyscraper building and you'll fall down very fast. This works in artillery too and a bunch of other spots around the map that may have mountains or large buildings that you can hit to kind of cancel the skydive animation. These sniper towers are great spots for damage dealing, and I like to go to them and pick up charge rifles and then deal a load of damage to kind of level up my armor and then move on. I'll usually swap out for a charge rifle, sit there for a couple minutes and just deal a bunch of damage, get my Evo shield armor up. Really useful tactic to use in ranked when maybe you are running around still with white or blue armor in the late game. Now you can reload the repeater shot by shot. Just aim down sight to stop the reloading so that you can start shooting again. Here's a little trick you can use with views to get some really good information about what's happening in the distance. You can aim down sights with this thing and get a really powerful zoom that just allows you to see like all the way across the map. Honestly, as long as there isn't any terrain in the way, you're going to be able to see people fighting at long distances, which really can come in handy. The ult is typically used outside to kind of block players' positions, but you can use it indoors as well. All you need to do is sort of fire it in front of you to create a wall of flames between you and the other players. Now what will happen is the flames will sort of just land right on top of you. Now don't be afraid here. It will do 5 damage to you, but as long as you step backwards as quickly as possible, the ticking damage that starts won't actually happen for a good few seconds, so you should be safe. Now let's talk about Olympus a little bit. To get out of a Trident in a specific side, hold your movement controls either left or right before getting out of the Trident. Marvins that have golden arms will have a spark on their arm. Shoot those Marvins and you can deliver the golden arm to another Marvin for free golden tier loot. If you're feeling very evil, you can use the golden arm trick that I did in my Marvin hunting video. Let's not talk about that here. Each time you pick up a golden arm, the nearest Marvin will be pinged on the map. When you find the Marvin, drop the arm, loot the Marvin, then pick it up again to get a new ping for another Marvin nearby. To get the loot in the fire ring in Octane's Gauntlet with the new jump pads, land on the ramp above it and lead into it with a slide. Sometimes you can get golden gear here, including golden weapons. Another spot for golden weapons is here, in between these trees. Another spot in the Mirage loot balls. All you need to do is activate the party button at the top of the Mirage Voyage, and there's also a disco ball here that can have golden loot as well. You just gotta time it right to shoot it when it goes gold to get the golden loot inside. If you have a bunch of grenades with fuse, use arc stars first. They deal up to 90 shield damage on first impact, but if the player already has no shields, it'll only do 30 damage. An arc star will also slow them, making it easier to follow up with more nade spam. Alright, that's it. Now I'm going to jump into a bunch of legend and weapon tips, one for each weapon and legend in the game. Let's get into it. Mozambique. Aim down sights with this thing. Here's the difference between aiming down sights and not aiming down sights. It's massive. Mastiff. Same story here. It has a horizontal spread, so you really want to aim down sights to get those 100 damage plus shots. However, if there's a player really far away, sometimes it's actually better to shoot non-ADS because you have a higher chance of dealing just a little bit of damage. So if someone's running away with a tiny bit of health, it makes more sense to do that. Eva 8. A lot of people forget that this thing's full auto, and it fires really fast when you hold down the trigger. Want to stay mobile whilst charging a shot? Well, you can do it whilst b-hopping and get some nice movement and then peek and take a shot on a player. Not really a tip, but the Prowler has better time to kill than the other SMGs, so it is worth picking up. I mean, this thing comes with 245 ammo now. Want to go for the no-scope with the Kraber? Make sure you're crouching, it makes a massive difference. An L-Star is an LMG, but it's not really an LMG. You want to get up in people's faces and hip fire with it. It has great hip fire spread and really great blinding ability. So if you just fire like this, people aren't really going to be seeing what they're looking at. The Havoc has a really fast bullet travel time and velocity, which means you can tap fire at long range when you have a turbocharger to do some really good long range damage, just to do some poke damage on players. Don't be afraid to use the Vault long range or mid to long range. It's got really easy to control recoil, and with some practice in the firing range, you're going to be able to beam people from a very long distance. This is like a mini AR. In some ways, it's easier to control than an AR at these kind of distances. The Devotion has a massive kick upwards on its first initial shots, and then the recoil is very easy to control. So just aim down lower and you'll have an easy time shooting your targets. Yeah, as you can see, the Sentinel hipfire isn't very good, so instead you want to pivot around corners and just aim in, shoot, aim out, shoot when you're dealing with people close distance. The longbow, on the other hand, is good at hip firing when you crouch, so consider using it up close as a hipfire weapon. The charge rifle is 100% accurate no matter what stance you have, which means you can be very mobile with it. If you get in a situation where you're kind of in a pinch up close and you only have the charge rifle, just focus on your movement, because then you're going to be really hard to hit, and even if you're dealing a little damage to them, you're still going to have an easy time. Here's a little trick you can do with the triple take. Essentially, when you ADS, the spread is always going to be the least amount. However, sometimes you don't want your spread to be small, because when the spread is higher, if there's a player long range with really low health, it actually makes sense to spread out your bullets. That way you can have a higher chance of hitting them. Now, if you just try and hip fire, your bullets are going to go vertically all over the place. However, if you crouch and hip fire, the spread is reduced enough to the point where you can pretty accurately just shoot in a large area. As you can see here, if there's a player running across the open, I'm going to have a much higher chance of hitting them because I'm spreading out those bullets in a large distance. Let's say there's a Gibby running along here. We're going to have an easy time hitting them. However, if we zoom in, we're only really going to be able to hit one of these targets at one time. Even with the choke turned off, we're still only going to hit one target. So if we want a great chance of hitting a player that's long range, crouch and hip fire with a triple take. If you need to use this weapon in a pinch up close, it's kind of similar to the other weapons. You want to be crouching and hip firing. It's going to give you the best kind of movement and a much higher chance of hitting people. The wingman is a really hard weapon to use, and one of the reasons why you feel like it's harder to hit with a wingman is because weapons in this game, when they shoot people, they slow them, and movement is everything in this game. If there's someone strafing around like crazy and you spray a Spitfire at them and you hit them a few times, they're going to be slowed, which is going to make the following shots easier to hit. With the wingman, you're going to have a difficulty hitting your shots because you need to get that initial shot first to slow them down to make the next shot easier. That's why the wingman should be your secondary weapon if you don't have great aim you can be confident with. What I mean by that is you can shoot with, say, a flat line, get a shot off, switch to the wingman, they're already going to be slowed and it's going to be easier to get that shot. The Spitfire is a long-range beast right now. Learn the recoil pattern, it's very simple and you'll be able to do a lot of damage, long range, harass people, and just cause a lot of damage to people. Look at this, for example. Look how easy it is to control the recoil. I just don't see why you'd ever want a scout or a 30-30 when you can do this kind of harassment to players long range. Okay, keep in mind I don't even have a barrel on right now. The Hemlock is still a very powerful weapon. You kind of want to have it on burst and just simply pull down like this every time you're shooting to get high headshot damage. The flatline has quite a difficult recoil to learn, but the best way to learn it is to pull right and then down. First few shots pull right and then the following shots pull down. The RE45 is just a pretty bad weapon in terms of pure time to kill and its overall stats. You don't really want to be using it, but if you do, just keep in mind it has a very strange recoil pattern. It doesn't go up like most other weapons or up and around like this. It goes straight diagonally, so you need to pull down like that. You need to pull away from it, otherwise it's just going to go straight up like that. Of course, the P2020 is something that you're going to come across in a pinch. The best thing you can do is just spam fire like crazy, because you can fire this thing very fast. The only thing I could say about the R301 is use it more. It's really versatile at all distances. Long range, it has a really easy to use recoil. Up close, it has decent hip fire. You're going to have a great time using this weapon. Because the alternator has two alternating barrels, the recoil on it's really interesting. So if you need to deal damage long range, you can just tap fire and you're going to have a really easy time damaging people. The reason why the R9 recoil is so hard is because it fires so fast, which means because it fires up so quickly, you need to pull down quickly. That's all it is, just pull down as quick as you can and you're going to beam with the R9. If you pick up the scout early game and you don't have an optic, what do? I mean, it's so hard to see someone. I mean, an easy thing to do is just aim lower and then you're going to have an easier time. But another thing to do is just to find a piece of cover that you can pivot in and out of. And every time you peek out, make sure you're on 100% staying still. And the hip fire accuracy is going to be very decent. So that's all of the weapons. Now let's move on to the legends. If you want to survey an area, you can keep Fuse's ult available and zoom in at long distances. It's a really great way to get some information across the map. If you're in a really bad spot with Horizon, sometimes what you can do is just throw your ult on yourself and heal inside it. People aren't really going to push your ult because it's so difficult to deal with. I have so many different rampart tips to give. If you want to see a separate rampart tips video, let me know. But one thing, you can block caustic gas. Just make sure you put the wall in between you and the gas. Sometimes you'll need to make a sort of triangle shape like this and you'll be safe so long as the gas source is coming in this direction. If you play Loba, just don't really use the Q right now because it's broken and it just keeps sending you back. It's really just not worth it. You can't really wall jump with Revenant, but you can fake wall run with him a lot more effectively than any other legend. Just go to the wall, jump, and then turn your aim slightly to an angle away from the direction you want to wall run, and you're able to do it. And then at the end, just jump off. Crypto has a really great strafing animation that's really hard to hit because he bobs his head side to side like crazy. So all you need to do is just tap back and forth as fast as you can and you're going to be really hard to hit. As you can see here, Crypto's head is bobbing back and forth and this is really hard for people to hit. Most people will actually focus on the head of the target because that's where the most damage is dealt, right? So if your head is bobbing back and forth like this, it's really hard to deal with. Wattson may seem like a boring legend to play, but she has a really great win rate, and one of the reasons is she has some of the best animations in the game. I'm going to show you two animations you can abuse with Wattson. Now if you're strafing, the best thing you want to do with Wattson is just do a circular motion whilst crouching occasionally. Don't crouch like crazy, just the occasional crouch will do it. Another good animation for Wattson is if you're just going side to side like this, each time you're about to turn back towards the other direction, double tap crouch. I would say that the second animation, which I just explained, is better. The one where you double tap on each turning. However, so this is the first Watson animation. And then this is the second one. Now, many people forget about this, but Octane's stim slightly reduces slowing effects. So you can use it to get out of Caustic's gas, use it to get rid of Arc Star slows a little bit, and just get away from damaging slowing effects. So let's say you get Arc Starred, right? As soon as the slow happens, just hit stim and you're free. So you're going to be free from any extra nade spam. Now that Mirage's decoys finally make footstep sounds, I find one of the best things to do with Mirage is to activate your ult, walk around like this in a circle, and your player, the enemies are just going to be so confused which one is you, and just bide your time, wait for the right moment to take your shot so you can just down a player, because people are going to be really confused. In a pinch, Caustic's gas traps are good enough to hide behind. As you can see here, one gas trap is actually enough to hide Caustic, so if you're really low, you can just... Oh, well, what happened there? If you're really low, you can shoot the gas trap and then just hide behind it. And in some cases, when someone can get an angle on you, 2 is enough. It's actually kind of crazy. You would think that the gas traps are a lot smaller, but Caustic's giant body can fit behind one. The speed boost that Bangla gets from her passive is actually quite incredible. It can be a really good way to kind of engage on someone. Let's say someone's shooting at you, right? You can use that. As soon as you get that speed, go into a slide and then push on it. That slide is going to be able to push you really fast in the air. People are going to be really surprised by it. And then you can get right up in someone's face with a Mastiff. Wraith's hitbox got nerfed, but it's still decent. So if you're going to be playing a Wraith, I'd suggest using the Mastiff. It's a really strong weapon on her. And basically, when you get up in people's faces and you're having sort of like a duel with Mastiffs, just crouch all the time. And you're going to be really hard to hit. They're going to do like 14s on you. You're going to have a good time. They're going to have a bad time. At this point, there's tons of very easy grapple tutorials out there for you to follow, so definitely learn the basics if you haven't already. One thing I like to do is basically attach the grapple right in front of me. Say there's an enemy here, right? And I want to grapple on them right above their head. Then you can grapple, and as soon as the grapple touches the ground, press the jump button, and you'll sort of catapult yourself above them, like this. It can be quite a useful way to just surprise people and get, you know, right above their heads. Lifeline's biggest hitbox area is her legs, and because she's low profile, people will be able to do full damage to her legs. Usually the damage to legs is reduced, but it isn't on low profile. So to sort of you know, account for this, we can do quite an easy animation spam with Lifeline, because most people are going to be aiming for your legs, right? All you need to do is just go like this as fast as you can, left and right, and your legs are going to be going all over the place, and people are just going to be really confused trying to track this movement. And the great thing about this is it doesn't mess up with your aim much. In some situations, you're going to be really low with Gibraltar, and you're going to need to try and take a fight. The best thing you can do is just crouch like this and aim down sights, and most of your body is going to be sort of hidden by the gun shield. Just the top of your head and the tip of your toes are going to be showing. However, to make sure this is going to be the most effective, walk forward whilst you do it. As you can see, the gun shield covers the rest of your body. If you stay still, it's kind of easier to shoot your body here. So definitely move forward as you do this. Now, some people may have missed this change, but if you get a knock with Bloodhound's ultimate, it actually adds more time to your ultimate timer. So don't be afraid to be aggressive with this ability. It is a very good utility tool, but it's also a very powerful tool to be aggressive with, because you can maintain that speed that it gives you for longer and the vision it gives you for longer by getting knocks with it. Obviously, we cannot do it in the firing range, unfortunately. It will add time every time we get a kill. Alright, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for Intel for sponsoring this video. I hope this was all useful. Let me know your own tips for Apex Legends Season 8 in the comments, and I'll see you there. Cheerio!